You're still with SA Today. Welcome back. Now, more than 80% of South Africa's grade 4 pupils who are on average 9 or 10 years old cannot read for meaning. Well, this worrying statistic emerged from the 2021 Progress in International Reading and Literacy study, which were released by the country's Basic Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, on the 16th of May. Today, the Education Minister, Angie Motshekga, briefed the media on these and other issues. Let's now discuss this further via Zoom and welcome Mr. Hendrick Makaneta, who is from the Foundation for Education and Social Justice in Africa. He is the Deputy Chairperson. Hendrick, thank you so much for joining us. Look, more than 80% of South Africa's grade 4 pupils cannot read for meaning. A very frightening statistic and reality. Your reaction to this, sir?
Yes, definitely. The fact that we have got such a huge number of learners who cannot read for meaning in the intermediate phase of our schooling system is a cause for great concern for us as activists in the terrain. And we really want to call upon government to move with the necessary speed to make sure that they prepare our learners so that our learners can be able to participate on the same level with their counterparts throughout the world. And I think that there are many factors that affect these results. Amongst others is the fact that we seem to not invest a lot in the foundation phase of our education system. There is a lot of investment in the FET phase. That is why every year we see the Minister of Basic Education announcing the results for grade 12, the matric, for all 9 provinces. And there's always a great focus in that regard. Even Saturdays, you find that teachers go and teach on a Saturday, teaching only the higher grades, such as grade 12, as well as grade 10 and 11. And, there's no proper focus at foundation level.
Look, this is now an increase from the 2016 study. What does this say about the fragile as well as critical state of the education system's foundation phase at this moment, sir?
Well, it simply means that if you look at the results, because if learners cannot read for meaning, it simply means that even teachers at that level are not able to thoroughly teach higher order comprehension skills, which are necessary for learners to be able to read for meaning. At the moment, especially schools that are in townships, as well as some of the poor rural communities, particularly public schools, this is where the huge problem exists, where you find that our teachers at that level only teach a lower order comprehension skills. I'm talking here about the intermediate phase, which is grade 4 up to grade 7. And so until such time that, as I've said earlier, until such time that we can be able to change the manner in which we approach our education system, we'll continue to see these problems because even when you want to build a house, your foundation has to be strong in order for the house to stand still. And so higher order skills, are necessary in terms of comprehension. Teachers have to be fully qualified as well. Because if you check, most of these learners who come from the early childhood development, some of them were taught by teachers who are not so qualified. And I think that is another cause for concern.
That's a very critical point indeed, Hendrick. Now, this study comes also as we analyze the latest unemployment stats, which also reveal that youth unemployment remains critically high. How do we then improve the quality of and access to education?
Well, I think that in the past 29 years, we can safely say that in terms of access, yes, the doors of learning and teaching are open for the vast majority of our learners. And I've also seen recently in terms of the proposed Basic Education Law Amendment Bill, where they propose that it will be compulsory going forward for all the grade learners to be at school. So if a child of school going age who should be in grade R is not at school, there will be consequences for the parents. Parents will have to account as to why is the child not at school. So in terms of access, we've got no doubt. I think that government has been able to move, towards the right direction in a progressive manner to ensure that access is granted. But the key thing that we are worried about is the quality. You have mentioned correctly the access and quality. So quality seems to be a problem in a sense that, by the time, for instance, learners who start grade 1, along the way you find that there are dropout rates. By the time they reach a matric, only half of them are able to sit for the matric examination. And I think this also talks to the quality of our education system in a sense that we still have lower the bar. The bar is still low. I think that at some point we must find a way to increase the bar with a view to improve the quality of learning and teaching.
And Mr. Hendrick, is this not then an indication that maybe we then need to start like an entire overhaul of the educational system and maybe start looking at alternative models like other countries where skills development is a focus from an early age, like you mentioned earlier, with a specific focus on individual capabilities for kids to adults?
Definitely. You will recall that in January this year, there was the Basic Education Quota, which discussed a number of issues, and amongst some of those issues was the issue of modernizing our education system, with a view to ensure that our learners leave the basic education system with skills, the necessary skills that can enable them to craft a future for themselves. And I think that we must applaud government for ensuring that they pilot the program of robotics as well as coding, with a view to move towards the overhaul of the system. And of course, the three-stream model as well, whereby learners are grouped into different categories. Those learners who are not academically inclined may have to proceed into vocational studies and so on. So I think what is lacking currently is the necessary infrastructure, especially in townships as well as rural communities, where you find that as we speak now, there are still many learners who are behind. They are not able to, even government has not been able to reach out to all the learners in relation to courses or subjects such as robotics as well as coding. But in the long run, I think that we are moving towards the right direction to make sure that learners can have the 21st century skills that are required by the fourth industrial revolution.
All right. And then just to wrap up, Mr. Hendrick, now, the issue is also when we focus on tertiary education, I know you've just mentioned some pointers there. We don't give enough recognition to skills-based and focused training vocational colleges, TVET colleges, where youth that don't per se qualify for NSFAS or varsity entry can actually obtain vital skills and knowledge about alternative industries. That in turn, of course, creates businessmen and women, and those are the ones that actually create employment.
That is a problem. That is a problem. I know that Higher Education Minister Dr. Benz Mande spoke recently also about the issue, citing his concerns. He also spoke about the recognition of prior learning for those who might have started by working before proceeding into colleges and so on. Now, we think that government must move with a necessary speed, because if you look at the high rate of unemployment, in the main, it affects young people, and the majority of those are those who left schooling system either with just a matric certificate, and some of them also, as I said, the dropout rates, they just leave without a certificate. And this continues to become a problem towards our economy. because in one way or the other, these young people who are unemployed, they become an additional challenge that government must resolve. It's a good thing that MEC Panyazali Sufi in Gauteng has started. We have seen the radical shift in relation to the job market. We hope that he'll make a dent. But if we don't prioritize these vocational skills as well to drive those learners who are not academically inclined, we may sit with problems for many years to come.
Thank you so much. So that was Mr. Hendrick Makaneta, and of course of the Foundation for Education and Social Justice Africa, talking to us about the shocking educational stats that most pupils in grade 4 even in South Africa can't read for meaning or to understand at that level.